Hi, everybody. Today we're going to learn how to use the proprietary scoring system on our Madison Trading House platform. The scoring system is comprised of four buttons. One has the appearance of a chart, the other has a circle, one has a dollar sign, and the other has three bars. These four symbols and the buttons represent scores for a stock. They basically give you a quick way to summarize the various aspects of a stock. For example, it's technical, in other words, chart based um, qualities. You also will have the activities of insiders as well as institutional traders and so forth. So we're going to go through each one. So the first one is technical. That's the button at the top here. When I click this, I'll be able to see a chart. And as I can see, Altria Group, symbol MO, is currently on a short-term uptrend since roughly the beginning of December. So as a result, is receiving a positive score on the technical basis. Next, we'll look at the insider score. The insider score shows me the activity for the stock, both in terms of insiders, in other words, company executives, and also looking at institutional trading activity. We can see here that the companies experienced a 0.3% decline in institutional ownership. It has 800 buyers, 821 sellers. It is in the top 10 list for 15 institutions. And we can see the actual change in the number of buyers, which was a positive gain of 37, but we also have an increase in sellers of 54. And we also notice that it's fallen it's lost two top 10 rankings as well. Down below, we can see a graphic that shows us the overall pattern of institutional activity, which shows that recently, ever since roughly November the 30th, we've seen an uptick in institutional ownership. And that would definitely explain partially why the stock has been trending up since around the same time. Also, when we look at the insider activity, we can also see an uptick roughly from the same time. So by looking at the trend of insider activity and the trend, of institutional activity at the bottom and the trend of insider activity at the top, we're actually able to get some idea of how the score works. Over here, we can actually see a representation of recent trading activity, which also shows that there's been more buying than selling. When we look at the next component, which is the valuation tab, as you can see, is right above. So we can get there either by clicking this dollar symbol, or we can just click the tab above. What we see in the valuation is a track record of key ratios such as PE ratios, price to cash flow, price to sales, etc., price to book. So this just shows me a summary of where the stock is relative to its valuations in the past. So its PE ratio currently is in the green, meaning that it's in the lower end of the range it's been in over time. PEG is actually at the upper end. Price to cash flow is in the middle. Price to sales is at the upper end. Price to book is actually in the lower end. And we can see an actual graph at each of these tools, each of these windows that shows us the history. So we can actually get a sense of where we are now versus where we've been recently. Now, lastly, we have the growth component. And the growth component, we're looking at such things as sales, net income. We're looking at key ratios such as current ratio, cash conversion ratio. We're looking at earnings history over time. We're looking at analyst targets, growth rates, operational cash flow, etc. Now, all of these combined are what creates the score. So the more neutral the score is, in other words, the more it leans towards the middle, not extremely good, but not extremely bad, we have yellow. If it's really good, we have green. And if it's really bad, we would have a red color. Now, we don't have an example of that here, but let's go to one of our scans and we can actually locate some stocks that have very poor performance. So I'm going to the score. I'm looking for scores that are red. So let's say we go over here, all red current. And as I can see, these are all stocks that have red across the board. Negative behavior on the technicals, negative behavior on institutional and insider activity, negative valuation, and also negative fundamentals. These, of course, would be stocks that are typically going to be in trouble. They'll have some pretty serious problems with their business. Whereas if we were to look for stocks instead on the score that were in all green, these would be companies that have very strong performance on every level: technical, insider, valuation, and fundamental. So this makes it easy for me to find really high quality stocks. And if I use this information to locate opportunities, it could potentially get me into winning stocks earlier, or at least help me to find those stocks that show the potential of future growth. In fact, one of the nicer components is we can look at stocks that have just become all green today. So these three stocks just today became all green, meaning that we're catching them right at the point where they're showing all the strengths that will be necessary for a potentially strong performance. So in short, when we look at this scoring system, whether it's on a watch list or any other place, we can get a quick glance at what the overall parameters of a stock are. For example, we can see that Google, while it may not have a good technical score, it is scoring very highly on the other components. Or we might see a stock that has a great technical score, but the fundamentals are not so good. All right, so folks, hopefully this helps you to understand how to use our software. Thanks for your time.